let's see. I think it's loading there. Do you see it live? I think it says we're streaming.
Let me refresh. Yes, we are streaming.
Nice. How we doing? Here, I'm gonna do a little.
I'm either
sound
super
check.
intense or I'm frozen. Okay, no, I was super intense.
Yeah, it's just lagging a little bit. I'm gonna do a little sound check real quick. So BRB.
Okay. It sounded good. I was just listening to it. Well, for anybody who's in here, welcome to our big stream of the year, recapping an entire year within one stream. So that's what we're here for, generally speaking.
Here we go.
What's up, Max? Welcome to the chat so early. Love to see it.
I think I'm gonna bring down the music just a little bit. We got some background music, bro.
Yeah, I heard that. Sounded great. Love it.
Yeah, I love it. So,
Max, it's our pleasure to bring you the reviews and the news.
Yeah, that's right. I like the extra added on of the news. We are those people now, honestly. So.
Well, it's funny because I think you and I always think of the channel as like co-op reviews because that's where we started. But so many of our subscribers, I think, are really here for the monthly.
Yeah.
And it's like weird to think that we've like sort of transitioned into that. But I'm fine with it. I think it's pretty cool, actually.
No, so. Yeah, it is. It is really cool. Cool. Well, so if you've been following us for the past, I think it's the past 3 years that we've been doing the our year in gaming, right? We only did 2 videos of them.
We've done 2021, 2022, and now here we are at 2023. Also, what's up, Gabe? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, dude? Anyways, yeah. So I think you said 2022 was the first year we did it, or 2021? Yeah.
No, this is 2021. So this is our 3rd time.
Yep. Yeah, so 2021, we did a video called Our 2021 in Games. And then it was this very long video. I think it was like an hour long. And we went through every game that we had each played together. So not just co-op games, but single player games too. It was really cool. It was a very different kind of video from us. But we kind of wanted to find a way to talk about not just like co-op games, but really like all the games that we play, because we do play a ton of single player games as well. And then the following year we did it again. And I think every time that we've done it has been kind of like a roller coaster, especially you, because you're like editing this behemoth of a video during the holidays.
Yeah, the reason we're doing this stream is because of that. Also, with Max, yes, it is hard to find these games. And Coaster Cheetah, thanks for coming. Welcome to the chat. And I am planning on playing God of War Ragnarok DLC any
Likewise.
minute. But yeah, every time we get to the end of the year and we would do this video, it always set a record for the longest like fully edited video. We've done longer videos that are more like these, like streams are obviously going to be longer, but like a fully edited all-in video, it's always breaking the record of how long it is, and we knew that was going to be the same case again this year. And I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can take it, because it's holidays. It's really long. I go all out on it. Not that it really matters, but we don't get as many views on that. Like, that's okay, because like the real like hardcore fans are watching that, because it is every game we played. It's kind of intense, but I couldn't justify doing it. But we love the spirit of it. We love the spirit of finally getting to go through and talk about stuff other than co-op games, like Gabe was saying. So this is our way of keeping that spirit alive, which I think is super duper cool. So shout out to Gabe, not Gabe in the chat, Gabe in the stream, for thinking about this, because it was kind of getting to the point where we weren't sure we were just going to keep doing it. And I was really bummed about that. And he's like, well, what if we turn into a stream? And I was like, that is just the perfect solution for this. So,
yeah. Well, I think we have a lot of fun on streams too. And it kind of feels like a fun way to kind of like cap off the year with you guys. But before we kind of get into it, we have a little bit of housekeeping to go through. Our Wizard Was a Gun review went live today, which is very cool. And then we have 2 more videos for the rest of the year. Hit them with what they are, bro.
Yeah, before, obviously the last video of the year would be December monthly, but it might actually come out in the new year. So really the last 2 videos to come out this year will be an Endless Dungeon review. So we have been playing Endless Dungeon with Jake, really, really enjoying it. And I am writing that review. It'll probably come out within the next few days. And then after that is the big kahuna, as I like to call it, the top 10 co-op games of 2023. That is usually our biggest video in engagement and in views and whatnot. We love that one because it's just fun to go back and go through all of those great games we played. And it's a big year for that. I mean, it really puts into perspective how great this year is for video game releases. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. And then upcoming videos that we have in January, because the first sort of months is always pretty big. Like the last months of the year and then the first months of the next year is like peak co-op bros, I like to say. But yeah, we can look forward to our every major co-op game coming in 2024 video. So we did that. That was the first time we did that sort of title for a video this year, which is that we sat down and literally went through like every major co-op game that's coming out in the year, and we kind of
chronicalized like 30 plus.
Yeah, and we kind of split it up between like which ones have like full release dates, and then which ones are kind of like windows, and then like which ones might come out of early access. So we're gonna do that again this year because I think that's kind of like a fun snapshot to have for like the whole year. And then we're gonna do a follow-up video to that, which we call top upcoming co-op games of 2024, and that's just like the cream of the crop. Like here's like 10 games that you absolutely need to have on your radar.
Yeah, the ones that we're most hyped for, like when we look at the upcoming year, we're circling those as like the big games that we have to play and try and cover.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like Max was saying, I mean, the whole point of our channel is to help you find games to play with your best friends, and those two videos help you kind of prepare yourself for the year to come. So that's
exactly.
Cool.
And then speaking of next year, we got a couple games that we're kind of looking forward to. I think for us, Helldivers 2 will be the one that we're most excited to dive into in the new year, in sort of Q1, if you will. And then Suicide Squad, I think we're cautiously optimistic. I don't know.
We're the only influencers, YouTubers that exist that are even cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
It's like the most positive you could possibly feel about the game. Most people are overwhelmingly pessimistic, but we're gonna play it. We're gonna give it a shot.
See it
so
through.
We're a little bit excited.
Yeah. So
see it through. That's right.
Nightingale, because that's gonna come out finally into early access in Q1.
Yes.
I think late February. And that's a game that we've both been looking forward to for a while. So I feel like that'd be.
That's
really
one of those ones that it's like the monthly is so great for that, but we've been covering Nightingale for it feels like a year and a half, which is probably accurate.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool to finally see, oh my gosh, we're going to actually play this game, even if it's early access. We still kind of, for some games, we like to hop in to that first early access, see if it's worth playing, because some games are in that early window.
Yeah.
Some aren't, but that's okay.
And then, January 1st, that's our 5th year anniversary as a channel, which is kind of wild to think about, honestly.
It is wild.
It's like every time I talk about it, I'm like, wait, are we going into our 5th year, or it is our 5th year as a channel, which is kind of wild. I've always loved that, like, we started this on like the first of a year, that like our first video came out on 2019, January 1st. It's so cool to me. But yeah, we're going to do something cool for that. We'll probably do a really fun stream. I think the idea that we've thrown around is ranking every single co-op game that we've ever played in like a sort of tournament battle system sort of thing. So I think that could be really fun. Maybe we come out with some merch for that. That could be really cool. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And if you've been following us in the beginning, thank you a ton, because we would not be here without you. So
yeah. Looking back on it, it's like those first couple years was a lot of experimentation. It doesn't really feel like we were a YouTube channel back then compared to what we are now. We're like an absolute unit, a machine of content for what we do. So it's just cool. If you've been there since the beginning, we really appreciate it, because it's what's gotten us to this point.
Totally.
So yeah, Max says I try to keep a Google Doc of potential games, but the actual play game isn't that long. That even for us, where we play a lot of games, as you're about to see, it's always going to be a longer list of potentials than actually played. So
cool. So this is what we're gonna do. All right. So I think we've each played around like 30-ish games this year. But rather than going through all 30, we're gonna go through half of that list. We're gonna go through 15 of them each, okay? So you're gonna see a lot of repeats because obviously Andrew and I play a lot of these are co-op games, obviously, that we cover for the channel. But then also some of these games are gonna be just single player games that we both played. Like obviously we both played Zelda. And then, so we're kind of ping pong back and forth. So Andrew will talk about his number 15, and then I'll talk about my number 15. And some of them are gonna be kind of back to back, but it'll be fun because you'll be able to hear like what did Andrew think about Survivor versus like what do I think about Jedi Survivor, sort of thing, like sort of these different games that we both played. So yeah, I think that would be kind of interesting. And yeah, that's the plan. Shall we get into it? Let's go through the comments here. What other little comments we got?
We got Madman Terry said, "Always great to see y'all stream. Always great to see you in the chat, Madman Terry." Max is just listing all the games that he needs to play, and it's a lot.
Yeah, what do we got? Valheim, Left 4 Dead, The Forest, Green Hell, Fallout 76. I'm gonna stop right there. There's a lot of this.
Yeah. Just super quick, right off the gate, looking at that list, you gotta play Baldur's Gate 3. Boom, there you go. That's all you need to know.
That's right.
All right, let's get started.
Your number 15 is Wild Hearts. So let's hear it.
Let's hear it. So Wild Hearts is obviously a co-op game, so Gabe and I played this together. This was way back at the beginning of the year in February, and we were both really, really excited for Wild Hearts. And when we first started playing it, we wanted it to be the next Monster Hunter, and it totally hit. Like, we were so into this game, loved everything they were doing to keep that sort of Monster Hunter spirit going. Gabe, you might want to fix the cameras while I'm going right now. Loved everything it was doing to keep the Monster Hunter spirit going, but then also like the katakuri system really helped differentiate itself in an awesome way. And it ended up just being a game that I think both of us were playing not just with each other, but like outside of playing with each other. It ended up with, so you guys don't actually see in our reviews, we don't give a score or anything, but we actually do score every game we play. So there's a pro tip. If you find us on GG, we score every single game we play. I gave Wild Hearts a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10 if you want to look at it on a scale of 10, which to me means it's great. And I just gushed about it. There was a couple things about Wild Hearts that didn't work out. The pacing towards the end, you hit some crazy difficult bosses towards the end that drove Gabe and I up the freaking wall.
That's crazy, honestly.
Where it was like, it's games do this where they're so good and you're enjoying it and you get to the end and they just botch it with like a really long level or a really tough boss, and Wild Hearts was 100% that. Really brought us down, but yeah, really great game. Super disappointed it didn't get more love, and that was a lot because of the performance on PC, which is deserved. It was not good, but I really hope that one day they make a Wild Hearts 2, because it's a franchise I would 100% come back for. So yeah, that's all I got to say about Wild Hearts.
If you put it on a percentage, like, what do you think they're gonna do a Wild Hearts 2? Like, I don't know, because how sure are you?
I'm not very sure, honestly. I'd give it a 50. I'd say it's 50-50 because it didn't see the success I think they wanted to, because they stopped the support earlier than they, I think, had planned, which I don't think was, people made a big deal like it was dead. Well, I don't think that they planned on Wild Hearts being a long-term live service game. I don't think that was necessarily in their plans. They did a good job at supporting it for about 8 to 9 months, like multiple new monsters and quests and items that they added on, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, I don't know. I really want them to. It was an EA original, so they got the backing from EA, and you never know with EA. They're hard to predict. So
yeah, for sure.
Who knows? Fingers crossed. I would love to see it, but yeah.
Yeah, we did really love that game. So cool. My number 15 was Diablo 4, which we're already getting a little spicy here. Lots of people have interesting thoughts about Diablo 4. I think, to me, I just remember feeling really impressed with the story, the music, the way it just kind of, it felt really cinematic for a CRPG. I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, like I wasn't expecting that. Like it just kind of had this level of like craft to it. I think to me also, like, we sort of approached this game from like a more casual perspective, where it was kind of more about like, hey, let's just play the campaign. Let's do some of the world bosses, and then we're kind of piecing out. Like I didn't really get too far into the Paragon boards or anything like that. But I think by the end of it though, like I had a really cool like necromancer build. We kind of came up with a couple abilities that comboed off each other. I did a lot of the open world stuff. And then I think to me, one of the bigger highlights was definitely doing those world bosses with my friends, and just being like, you know, tracking the time with it on Twitter and being like, dudes, let's get on, you know, during our lunch break at work and let's do a world boss. So I think to me, it's like the base game of Diablo 4 is like really solid and really easy to enjoy. And then I think once you kind of step outside from that is like where it starts to show, you know, it kind of lets down some of those more hardcore fans, which is unfortunate. But yeah, to me, like I think especially as my first Diablo game, which I think that's a big part of it too, like I don't have anything to compare it to, it kind of did everything I kind of wanted it to, honestly. I think to me the only thing towards the end was like, one, the difficulty just like was really all over the place. Like, or yeah, I guess it was just super easy for us, right? I'm like trying. The
story was really easy.
Yeah, the story was really easy. I'm trying to think back to it now. Some of these games that we played like early in the year. But yeah, so I feel like the story was really easy, which is a bummer because some of these bosses were really, really cool. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, I think in the end, I mean, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think that feels right to me. So yeah, that's my Diablo 4. And then what your number 14 is Diablo 4 as well. So
yes, yeah, you're gonna notice a trend that for these first few in the top 15, we have a lot of similar throughout the whole top 15. But I'm always like one thing ahead of Gabe, which is funny. So I will continue the Diablo 4 talk. A lot of what Gabe said, I obviously agree with. We played the whole game together. I think when we first started, we could not get over how impressed we were with the presentation, with the feel of it, with the different classes. And that really drove a lot of our gameplay. And it wasn't really towards the end where it had an opposite effect of Wild Hearts, where towards the end we started to really see the cracks of how the story bosses were just so easy. And it made all the work you did towards your class feel unengaging, to where I didn't feel like everything I was working towards was really worth it, because I could just blow through, like the last boss, we just blew through all of its phases that looked so cool to potentially engage with. It didn't matter. We just went right through it. So it was the anti-Wild Hearts, where towards the end it got too easy. But that didn't really take away from the fact that it had a lot of really great things going for it, especially that storytelling. I didn't think that we were going to be as impressed with the storytelling as we were.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot with the campaign. And it's a good thing to keep in mind for us, at least. We didn't plan on Diablo 4 being the only game we played this year. Yeah. And that, like, for the hardcore fans, I get it. I get why they are disappointed in, you know, the response post-launch and whatnot. But for us, just playing the base campaign, we were really impressed. I also gave it a 4 out of 5. So, you know, I thought it was great. We recommended it on the channel. Definitely had its faults, but for the most part, enjoyed it. And I'm really happy to see that in the latest season, it's kind of made a little bit of a comeback here. I actually have it. I re-downloaded it on my PlayStation because I'm tempted to get back into it, but I don't know if I actually will. But yeah, so Diablo 4, it was great. I want to play it again maybe when they get a big DLC
next year.
Yeah,
I would definitely.
It does have one coming out next year.
Yeah, I'd definitely dive into to next year's DLC. So that's pretty cool. All right, moving along. My number 14 is Jedi Survivor. Nice. Yeah, so this is way up in Andrew's list, but I get to talk about it first. I gave Jedi Survivor a 4 out of 5. Context: I liked the first game, but I didn't love it, I guess. There were things about the first game that I just couldn't get past, which one of them mainly was the map. And then I think there was parts of how it was trying to be a little bit of Uncharted and a little bit of Dark Souls that like maybe didn't hit totally well. But I was still really excited for Survivor because I think the best thing about it, the whole Jedi series, to me has been the storytelling. And I love Cal as a main character, and like where things left off in the first game, I just was dying to know where they were going. And I think this one really hits with that. Like there's some twists in this game that like totally got me. I like that it's a little bit darker. I think Cal has a lot of good like character arc sort of thing in this one. I like the combat a lot more in this one. I think the stances were really cool, and I feel like you can kind of end up crafting like your very own sort of like fighting style. I think in the end I went with I had like a Kylo Ren stance that was really cool, and then my other stance was the dual blade one, and like I thought that was awesome. That was really fun to play around with. I think the pacing was a little better in this one for sure. I think to me in this game, like maybe it wasn't a full 9 yet. I think some of the puzzles I think felt like there was like maybe too many, and like I kind of felt like, oh, like I just want to get on to like the next thing. And I didn't feel like super engaged with some of the other sort of like side questy, like go explore kind of thing. But I don't know, I think there's just something about this series so far that hasn't hit like the like solid 9 yet, and I'm really hoping that like the next one does that for me. But yeah, that's my number 14 game of the year. 4 out of 5, Jedi Survivor. You're up, bro.
Yeah, so we're moving on to number 13. This is my last 4 out of 5 game, so 8 out of 10 game, and that is Remnant 2, another game that we played together. Remnant 2 was really, really good in gameplay. Like, just the combat alone, I thought was bringing back everything that we really liked about Remnant from the Ashes, but upping it. Better RPG systems with better classes, kind of bringing back the whole lot of secrets to find, a lot of different puzzles to solve. Always kind of going from combat to puzzles to secrets to exploration. It just really amped up everything Remnant from the Ashes did. And Remnant from the Ashes was like one of our most recommended co-op games. I think we would bring up to people was like, oh, have you played Remnant from the Ashes yet? And then Remnant 2 was just a better version of that. It did have some issues where some things were double-edged swords, like the secrets and the puzzles, where sometimes you do a secret or puzzle and you'd be like, oh, that's so cool that I found that, or that I was able to solve that. And then sometimes you run into a secret or a puzzle and it just be like, how in the heck am I ever supposed to find that on my own without help? Like,
totally.
That was how that was supposed to be solved? That's how I was supposed to find that? It's just, they took it like 2 to 3 steps further than what you'd want it to be, and it just became frustrating.
Yeah.
So that was what was really holding it back from being that, I think for both of us, a 4.5, like a 9 out of 10, that tier 1 co-op game that we, talk about endlessly. But still, always going to recommend Remnant 2. Love the class system. I also want to keep playing this one. It just came out with DLC, and I have considered getting that DLC and playing it.
Yeah.
Just holding me back is, time and other games. But yeah, the other big thing that took away from us was the final boss is an absolute doozy. It's just the mechanics of that final boss were a lot. It was a lot. We got through it. Honestly, not even that. I think it only took us in the end like 12 tries, like somewhere in that 10 to 15 range. But it wasn't fun.
Yeah,
we got through it, but it wasn't fun. We didn't enjoy it. So similar to Wild Hearts, where a great game ended on a sort of downtrend, but we you got to remember all the good times you had in those moments, and I think we did a good job reflecting that in the review we did.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. We got a quick little comment here. We got Solo King says, can you recommend me games that support split screen 4-player and PS5 and so cool like Blur or Black Ops 2 on PS3? That is very specific.
4-player PS5 games. That is tough to think about. Yeah. What's up, Duckley? Only 12 LOL. I'm wondering if you're referring to Remnant 2. It's actually 13. Sorry, Duckley. That must be more disappointing for you. Man, can you recommend me split screen 4-player and PS5? I'm trying to think of split screen games and I can't. So if you want like a local 4-player co-op game, I would go with like a Sackboy: A Big Adventure.
Divinity
is a really, really good
is not
4-player local co-op game.
Only 2-player, right?
Divinity, I think, is 4-player split screen. Yeah, you could do Divinity Original Sin 2 would be a good one. You get the usuals like Moving Out 2 or Overcooked 2. Trine 5 is 4 players, local co-op. That was good this year. So yeah, go based off of that.
Cool.
That's what I got for you, Solo King.
All right.
All right, continue. Number 13 for you, Gabe.
My number 13. Here we go. So my number 13 is Endless Dungeon, which is way higher on our co-op list, but you'll have to find out how high later. I loved Endless Dungeon. Like, I think it was like one of my biggest surprises of the year. Like, I knew I was gonna like this game, but like, man, it just hits so many things right. It's my first 9, so pretty much all the games going on from here are 9s, which is crazy. So like my first,
we get to some 5s at the end.
Yeah, my first 9 is number 13, which is wild to think about. But yeah, this game was awesome. I just feel like it has all the right things you want from like a roguelite, the twin stick shooter aspect, the sort of heroes are all really unique. To me, I think like it has that extra cherry on top of where like the art style and the music and the effects are like so freaking cool. Like I was always like, I feel like even sometimes I was distracted by it, like, because it just was so like, it was just so cool to me, like the way your gun shoots and like little effects kind of pop off. And then all the characters have like a lot of personality. Like I love my little Cardi character who was this little like bumblebee who like wanted to kill other bugs. And she was like really like cheery, but like kind of murderous at the same time. Which is really fun. Playing this with you and Jake was awesome. I just feel like we lost track of time like so quickly. And I mean, we would sit down and play this for like 2 hours sprints sort of thing, but like, man, it just like would go by so fast. And I mean, yeah, the runs are pretty long in this game, but still, like I was just like, it's definitely one of those games that really, characteristically has that sort of like one more run feeling. I really could. I mean, like if we had this in high school, we'd stay up until 2 a.m. playing this easy. Like, like it's just like that kind of game. So very, very cool game. It's definitely one that I really want to recommend to people. Make sure you kind of check out Endless Dungeon. Yeah, that's my number 13, 9.
I'll quickly continue that because it's my number 12. Like I said, I follow up Gabe with a lot of these, just one spot below him. Everything Gabe said, totally ditto. I love the art style. It was so much better than I was expecting it to be. The boss fights are legit so good. I think what I loved about it, that you might have mentioned, maybe not, was just the strategy that would go into every single run, where every decision you made was like a full-on conversation with the whole team. Like, do we want to research this turret, or do we want to open this door, or do we want to invest in our characters versus our like guns? Stuff like that was always a conversation, and I love that in co-op games when it's like you have to constantly communicate back and forth. Like, is this the right move, or is that the right move? Yeah. So that was really cool. So yeah. Gabe's number 13, mine number 12. Both of our first 9 out of 10s that we gave this year. Gabe, what was your second 9 out of 10 you gave this year?
Wait, so this is my number 11, right?
This is your number 12.
Oh, it's my number 12. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. I'm like going through the list here. So
you
my
good.
number...
I can help you if you need it.
No, you're good. My number 12 is Hogwarts Legacy. Which it's kind of funny talking about Hogwarts Legacy right now because Kathleen, my girlfriend, is playing that.
You got I think the trailer. There you go. You got it now.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Cool.
You get
it. I might take a minute to restructure some of my tabs. I think like my browser is full screen, so it's like I'm having to like switch between things.
You're good.
But here, I'll talk about Hogwarts Legacy, and then maybe I'll do that while you talk about your number 12, or your number 11 rather. Man, thinking back to Hogwarts Legacy is crazy because it just came out so early in the year. But it's funny because my girlfriend is playing it. She like picked it up again, so she's playing it right now because her best friend got it on Switch. So they're like kind of playing it together, sort of thing. And so it's been fun to kind of like be immersed in like the world of Hogwarts Legacy again. And it really made me think about how like this game was awesome. Like it really was so good. Just like watching Kathleen kind of go through like unlocking the hippogriff and unlocking the terrarium thing. Just like all these really cool things. I felt like one thing that was really like cheesy to say magical about this game, was how many new things they would add, you know, which was kind of a double-edged sword. I'll get to in a second, but it felt like really cool where it's like, you know, you just it's an open world game, and then there's like the magical combat, but then there'd be another thing where it's like, oh, now you unlock the broom flight, but then now you can ride beasts in the air, but then now you can like collect beasts and then have them in this terrarium, and also you can like decorate your whole room of requirement. It's like all these little pockets of different kind of gameplay in this game that I thought was really, really cool. And like, just like when you thought like the game settled into a rhythm, it would add like a new thing and you'd be like, whoa, this is awesome. And yeah, I think they did it. You know, like we were super excited to play this game because we're both big Harry Potter people. And it's just like feels like they finally made like a solid Harry Potter game that like everyone always wanted. So yeah, I'm trying to think what other things I really, really liked about it. I think the combat was really, really cool. Like towards the end, like you're just like are switching off all these different kinds of spells. You're able to like roll and like do this sort of like teleport sort of thing, which is really cool. So yeah, awesome game, honestly. Like I think it's one of those where it's like it came out so early that it's like it isn't as fresh on my mind, but like I really did have a lot of fun with it. And I did a lot in that game. Like I remember I did do like I did all of the companion quests. I thought the storytelling was really solid. Like the main story is like really good. It kind of gave me hope for like franchise games and like what are other franchises that I want to see. Like I think people are going to consider like the Hogwarts Legacy sort of treatment. And I am kind of sad like it didn't really get as much recognition, partially because of the sort of like nasty sort of JK Rowlingness of it all, which I think is understandable. But I was kind of sad it didn't get any sort of noms at the Game Awards because like the detail to like everything in the open world was so good. Like I really think it should have been nominated for art direction at least, you know. So yeah, so that's my little take on a Hogwarts Legacy there.
And conveniently, once again, this is I think the last time this happens, hopefully, is my number 11 game was also Hogwarts Legacy. So I also gave that a 9 out of 10 like Gabe. Same things as Gabe. One thing he was mentioning that was the double-edged sword is they really did want this to be the Harry Potter game. It was like really cliche, and that was the conversation at launch. It's like, is this going to be the Harry Potter game? And it was. They nailed it. And so they didn't want to hold anything back. They gave you so many systems to play with. Like if you wanted to be the Hufflepuff who took care of animals, you could do that. If you want to be the Ravenclaw who was like tending to their garden, you could do that. So it introduced all these systems. I think the double-edged sword of that was it took a little while for the game to get going where you're like, oh, okay, I think I see the gameplay loop. It was like a good 12 hours in before it felt like, yes, I now know what this game is and I can really dive into it. But once you did get to that point, it was so impressive. And yeah, the combat was addicting until the very end, which is saying a lot because the enemy variety was probably the biggest negative of this game. The enemy variety was atrocious, but the combat was so good that it didn't matter. You were still just having fun slinging spells. So yeah, great game. I was sad too to see it not get nominated. I'm not surprised it wasn't. But at the end of the day, they won the real battle, and that was the most copies sold. I'm sure that trounced every other game for this year in copies sold, especially now they got on Switch. Dude, I can't imagine how many copies of this game were sold this year. So
yeah, that is
good
crazy.
For the devs.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy to think about. Cool. I think I fixed my little issue there. There's always kind of a couple things here on stream where
we don't have a producer. We just have Gabe right now.
So I think it should be fine. But if you see our cameras clipping, I usually just kind of fits it within a second there. But cool. So we're moving on.
You're number 11, yeah.
Number 11. All right, cool. I'm super stoked to talk about this game because, man, I love this game. I feel like this was one of these games where, like, I was, like, kind of speaking the gospel of Dredge a lot this year. Where I love this game. Yeah, I think I fixed the camera issue. Nice. So I played this on Switch. It was a game that I just kind of picked up on a couple articles, people talking about it, and I really loved it. Like I just thought this game was awesome. I'm trying to think like big highlights to me. One, it just has like a really great gameplay loop. where the whole idea of dredge is you're this guy who kind of you're a fisherman, you're on this little boat, and you take this sort of contract in these little islands to kind of be like their official like fisherman guy, and so it kind of becomes, on the surface, it's this really chill game where you're just kind of going out on the water and fishing and catching different kinds of fish, and then over time you get money, and then you can kind of upgrade your boat to go faster, your inventory speed, you get different kind of equipment to catch different kind of fish and stuff like that. But then there's kind of this like sinister element to it, which is that like the overnight, because there is sort of like a night and day cycle, you'll start seeing like creepy fish and like these sort of like dark entities, and it has very much this sort of like eldritch horror vibe to it, and I love that. And playing it on Switch is super fun because I feel like I just like stay up late at night and just kind of have it like playing it like this close to my face, and it's like all lights are off and it's nighttime. And there's like this sort of risk reward because it's like you want to go out and you want to go and you want to go and catch more fish and like kind of be really productive, but then like you're like, oh shoot, like I gotta get back before like nightfall, and I'd always want to risk it because I'm like, ooh, I want to try to like find those rare fish. And so there's this little bit of risk and reward where you're sort of like, do I risk it or do I stay? And then the story was really good. There's like an actual story to this game. There's these little breadcrumbs that you can kind of pick up, little bits of lore, and there is like one really big twist to it that I was just like, man, this is just awesome. Definitely on like one of those games where it's just like, please, if you take anything away from this, go play Dredge, because I thought it was a big sleeper hit. So that's my number 11 and 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah. So now we're getting into the top 10 for both of us. So my number 10 overall game, I gave it a 9 out of 10, was Lies of P. Kind of a similar vibe to, it also had creepy vibes like Dredge, which I don't usually play very many scary games unless Gabe is there to comfort me. And but this one was one of the few that I made an exception for because I love Souls-like combat. Obviously, you guys probably know that if you watch this channel at all. I really loved Bloodborne. I really loved Sekiro. And this was kind of a combination of both of those. And I just kind of figured, I'll just push back the creepy part of it. It'll be okay. Well, the irony is, in the end, my favorite part was the creepy Victorian setting. They just absolutely nailed the art direction of this sort of apocalyptic Victorian industrial setting. And ended up being, to me, the star of the show. And the other crazy part of this is that the other star of the show was the story and the characters, which you never say in a Souls-like, unless you're talking about, maybe Jedi, the Jedi series that we've been talking about here already. There were so many backstories to these characters that you would just think, oh, this is just some, person who owns this building, whatever. I'm not going to really get to know them. And by the end, you know their whole backstory. You care about them. You're making important decisions to their well-being and whatnot. Your decisions actually matter for the story. It makes a difference on the endings. Really, really cool stuff. And that doesn't even get into the combat or the RPG systems, which are also stellar. I was blown away by Lies of P. It's in my top 10. I want it to be higher, but as you're going to see, and as we've talked about, it's just such a good year to where even a game like this, that's like an easy 9 out of 10, loved it for what it was. Really glad it got noms at the Game Awards. There's just so much bloat at the top of this year that, I couldn't put it any higher than number 10 as much as I would have liked to. So if you're a Souls-like kind of person and it looks interesting to you at all, give it a shot, because I totally wasn't going to give it a shot until a couple of people that I appreciate their opinions were talking about it highly. And I'm really glad I did. So yeah, Lies of P, give it a shot. It's on Game Pass, so there's no real excuse if you have Game Pass to not give it a shot.
Yeah, this is definitely one where it's funny you say that. You're like, I wouldn't play this unless someone, that I trust had told me. And then I feel that way, and you are that person. I would not have played this game had you not played it and spoken so highly of it. But this was a big surprise to me. It's just, I didn't play it, so it's not on my list. But to give my 2 cents on it, not having played it, I was like, oh man, this I was so surprised me that this game landed so well. I just thought for a while I was like, I don't know, this has to be a joke. It's a Souls-like about Pinocchio. What is this? But yeah, it's crazy that it did do so good. And I think you sort of telling me about the world building and how like Krat is like this super cool place. It's like, dang, like that like really gets me. Like I want to play that really bad.
Yeah.
So
You would love this setting, dude. So definitely got to play it.
We got It's a Me, assuming they said assuming y'all haven't played Borrowed Trauma, though BG3 may be my personal goatee, not even it or any other game this year got close to the co-op experience Borrowed Trauma brings. Ready or Not is also fire. Yeah, I've heard of both of those games. Yeah, we never got around to playing either of them. But you're not the first person to mention Borrowed Trauma, so maybe we throw that onto the backlog for next year.
Yeah, good call, It's Me. We definitely heard of Borrowed Trauma, and it sounds like a really cool concept for a co-op game. So, great shout out. And yes, Duckley, too many games to play, too little time to actually play them. That's right. Always the case. Always the case.
Cool. All right, my number 10, we're getting into it now, is Final Fantasy 16. Man, this was, I remember going into this year, Final Fantasy 16 was one of my most anticipated games.
Yes, you talked about that a lot.
It was just like, the second I heard people talking about how it was like Game of Thrones-esque, I was like, okay, I'm on board. But yeah, it was just, and it had the sort of like tragic backstory. It was kind of going more down to like a medieval setting. Yeah, I really love this game, which is saying something because like there are some deep flaws to this game, honestly.
Yes.
But like when it hits, it just hits so good. The combat in this game is like insane. It's so good. It's like insane. I'm someone in these kind of games, like these sort of RPG games, where like I sometimes just like skip battles because I'm sort of like, I don't know, like I don't want to waste my time with this or that. Like I'm like moving forward. And one of the biggest compliments I can give to the combat in this game is I never skipped a battle because it felt so good. Even if I'm just like walking around and there's like 3 spiders, I'm like, I'm gonna mess up those spiders and feel good about it. Those
spiders about to feel the wrath.
You know? And so, yeah, the combat was just awesome. And like it progressively gets better when you're unlocking sort of all these different moves. Let me see if I can skip. I'm playing, I think this was the state of play gameplay. Let's skip forward a little bit and see if we can get some actual combat in here. But yeah, it was just like, and I remember when this got announced, it was just like, oh my God, like, I mean, you and I were blown away.
It looked so good in trailers, and then when you played it was like, oh wait, it is that good to play.
Yeah, it is that game. Story was really good. I mean, the story really kept me like into that sort of like, oh, let me stick around a little bit, let me stay up a little later just to get to this next story beat.
Yes, yeah.
And then the boss fights, like, I mean, you're gonna talk about this too when this comes up for you, but like the boss fights were just like incredible.
Just spectacles, dude.
Just like stuff that you're just like, it goes to like, it starts at a 10 and then it goes to like a 15 and then you're like, oh my God, this is at a 20 right now, like what is happening? It just kept going. And like, the level of like scope in this game was just crazy. And I think to me that's really what made up for some of the lackluster elements, like the sort of like absent RPG systems, the pacing sometimes
pretty much not there at all.
The sort of like the side quests being very okay.
Some side quests were so fetchy, it was insane.
Yeah, so it's like, but like when you were in one of those boss fights, though, what were they called? They were the
icon fights.
The icon fights, which just like amazing. Like
when you knew you were going to be in an icon fight, before it even started, you were getting goosebumps because you're just like, oh, it's gonna happen. And it does every time. It just absolutely pops off.
Yeah, it's just awesome. So yeah, this game was really cool. I'm like very happy that like I gave it the time to kind of play through all of it. So but yeah, that was my number 10, right? Yep.
That was your number 10.
4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, another 9 out of 10. A lot of 9 out of 10s here until we get probably closer to our top 3 is when the 10 out of 10s will come out for us.
That's right.
But yeah, so my number 9 is a repeat from what Gabe mentioned earlier with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So I did give it a 9 out of 10 or a 4.5 out of 5. A lot of the same feelings as Gabe, just I guess a little bit more. One of the big points of emphasis this year for this top 10 and a lot of these games, you have these moments where you're just like your jaw hits the floor. And in a normal year, like usually those kind of games are like those are the top 3 games when you're just constantly your jaw's hitting the floor. But it already is starting here at Gabe's number 10, my number 9, where there were just moments in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Gabe beat the game earlier in the year, and I played it later. And I would text him and be like, "Bro, I just got to this point." He'd be like, "I know, dude, I know." And it was story, or it was gameplay, or it was a combination of both. To where I just felt like it had finally taken that step for me to go from an 8 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. And it's not perfect. Definitely had performance issues at launch, which really sucks because it totally destroyed any chance this game had of making a run at Game of the Year. Even in a crazy strong year, I think it could have had a run if it weren't for those PC performances. But yeah, the gameplay was great. I love the different stances like Gabe was saying. I love the fact that both he and I did totally different stances by the end. Like we engaged with different stances throughout the whole game, which I think is really cool. That not one was clearly the overall choice.
What were your two?
The story.
You did the pistol one.
My 2 were the pistol one, and then I did the Darth Maul one, which I think you might have done the Darth Maul one. I thought, did you do the 2 lightsabers, or did you do Darth Maul?
Yeah, I did Darth Maul. Yeah, I did Darth Maul and Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, those are.
And I did Darth Maul and I did Blaster. And the story, like Star Wars stories, I'm having trouble getting into Star Wars stuff anymore. Obviously, we're both Star Wars fans, have been my whole life, and I'm having trouble like still being a Star Wars fan just because of the what's the word? You know, just a lot. There's a lot of oversaturation, bloat of Star Wars. But this is one of the few Star Wars stories lately where I actually felt engaged and it felt like it was doing something differently. Didn't stick every story point or every character development, but it stuck a lot of it. And I think that's saying a lot for, again, just Star Wars oversaturation, and I'm just tired of it. So, yeah, number 9 for me, 9 out of 10, is Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, this is one with, I was really happy that you loved it as much. And like you said, I had played it earlier, and there are so many moments where I was thinking like, oh my God, I can't wait for Andrew to get to this part because it's just gonna, just gonna pop off for it. So no spoilers, obviously.
Matt, before you go, Madman Terry says, your guys' list made me realize how long this year feels looking back, and 2, how great it was for gaming. Absolutely. I was talking to Gabe the other day. We played Sons of the Forest at the beginning of the year, Gabe, myself, and our friend Garrett, and that feels like a lifetime ago. Lifetime ago that we played that game in February, so I'm feeling that for sure.
That is crazy. All right, I'm going to do my number 9, and then I'm going to grab some water, and you can do your number 8.
Cool, that sounds good.
But yeah, my number 9 is Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5, so a 9 out of 10. Yeah, so historically, I'm not a Mario person, to be honest. I'm not really much of a Nintendo person. I grew up with a Nintendo 64. I had a Super Nintendo as well, but I never had a GameCube. I had a DS, but I've mostly have been more of a PlayStation person. So I've missed out on a couple Mario games. I did play Odyssey, and I liked Odyssey a lot. But honestly, I can't lie. Like, Mario Wonder just friggin' slaps, dude. It's just so much fun. I think for me, sometimes when I've played Mario games in the past, I had gone through 3D World late last year, or was it early this year? No, it was late last year. Yeah, towards the end of the year, I had borrowed your 3D World, so I went through that, beat him on my own, and then also played Bowser's Fury, and that was a good game. I did really like it, but I think one thing sometimes for Mario games or Nintendo games, I sort of end up feeling like, okay, but like, is it over yet? Like, I kind of end up getting to that point where it's like, I want this to be done now, and I never felt that way with Wonder. I think it's the perfect length for a Mario game, in my opinion. And then also, obviously, the Wonder Stars just keep everything so fresh. And by the end, I really did feel like they nailed that concept. Like, yeah, you can say that like a couple of them are technically repeated, but like by the end, they all really felt different. And like even some towards the very end of the game, I was still kind of getting that like giddy smile of like, oh my God, that's so cool, you know? I think for a game to like sustain that for that long and be able to be like, give me that feeling towards the end, it's like kind of crazy, honestly. So Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It made me more of a Mario believer than I thought possible, honestly.
If you
Uh,
would you rate this above Odyssey? Because you played Odyssey as well, and I've always felt like Odyssey is the one that you still, despite not being like a Mario person per se, you're like, well, Odyssey is a
yeah.
masterpiece, sort of. So,
I think I would rate this below Odyssey. Yes.
yeah,
I think I
yeah,
gave
me too.
Odyssey a 5 out of 5. And I think to
Hmm.
me, this is going to be a theme for a lot of the games going forward for me is like, I think one of the biggest things that I sort of look for in games, especially nowadays, is like originality. And like, I think that's very true to sort of like my top 2 games. It's just games that I feel like are totally unique to what they're trying to do. And so obviously Mario is like an institution. It's been going around for so long. It's kind of hard to find those ways to like revolutionize it, and Odyssey did that. This I didn't feel like was a total revolution, but it still found so many like really clever ways to make it feel fresh, that like I don't think you could say like this is like, oh, another 2D Mario. It is not another 2D Mario. It definitely feels like its own thing. And I actually watched a really good video recently going over like the animations, just like really granularly, like all the different unique animations in this game, and it really gave me an even greater appreciation of it, which was something that I was aware of, obviously, but like when you watch someone talk about like how many animations there are even unique to like the elephant form, it's like freaking wild, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I really did enjoy this, and playing this with you was awesome. I mean, I think that's the story, right? It's like we both wish we would have been able to play this even more together.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll kind of speak to that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my number 9, Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
You tell me,
4.5 out of
bro.
5.
You tell me if we need to speed up. We're 50 minutes in and we're at number 8. Keep going at this pace, or should we speed up a little bit?
We're 15 minutes in.
50.
Oh yeah. Maybe we speed it up a little bit. I'm gonna go
Okay,
grab
cool.
some water, but
Yeah, you good.
I mean, I think the Nets ones are obviously games that are more top of mind to us too. So I think it's easier to kind of talk about those anyway.
Cool,
All right, I'm
cool.
gonna grab some water, but I'll leave you on here for your number 8.
Yes, my number 8 was Pikmin 4, so keeping the Nintendo love going. I'd never really played fully a Pikmin game before. I played a little bit of Pikmin 3. I played Pikmin 1 and 2 in multiplayer growing up. I'd always play the PvP modes with my brother and my friend. So Pikmin 4 was finally the one where I was like, you know what? I'm a big Nintendo guy. I gotta play Pikmin at some point. So I picked up the Pikmin 4 demo, played the 2 hours, and was like, yeah, no, this is it. Ended up playing all the way through the campaign, which was about 16 hours, and then, I mean, it's not really spoilery. There's pretty much like a whole nother half to the game after you beat it the first time. And I was like, am I gonna do that? Am I gonna play that other half? And I just did. And I just kept playing. And then I ended up doing every single challenge in the game. I'm actually, if I were to go back, I'm probably an hour away from 100%ing Pikmin 4, which I would have never thought I would do. It just was that good. The quality is so high in like every corner of this game, and it's just one of those sort of experiences where you can't put it down. It's so casual, and yet you still have to think about everything. It like hits that perfect balance of like difficulty where you can it feels like a chill game, but it's also not always a chill game. Like you have to think about things and like really be strategic, especially when you get to the second half of the game, which is post credits, which is wild. So yeah, I love Pikmin 4. If you haven't played a Pikmin yet and you've always wanted to, just play Pikmin 4. You don't need to go back and play the other ones. This is the one to play. And if you have played the other Pikmins and you're waiting to play Pikmin 4, then you're doing it wrong. You should just play Pikmin 4. So
Yeah.
very, very good game. Again, we're still on the 9 out of 10 train, and that's what I gave Pikmin 4.
This is one that I'm like really sad I didn't get to this year, because this is another one like kind of like Lies of P, like your sort of like endorsement of it is like, oh man, I really want to play it. And actually this is really nice, because I was thinking literally today, like, oh man, I want to get a game on my Switch to play over the holidays, and I was like kind of looking through some games that I already own on Switch, but I was like, I don't know, I kind of want something new. And then it's so funny because I was like, I couldn't think of like, what's a new Switch game I didn't play this year? And it's staring me right in the face. It's Pikmin 4. So definitely gonna buy it so I can play it over there.
I was very glad that it got a Game Award, which was awesome. And Video Game Donkey said, if you haven't played Pikmin 4, then you're not a real gamer. And anytime my opinion aligns with Video Game Donkey, then I've done something right.
That's true.
So,
That's true. Cool.
All right, you're up, buddy.
All right, so my number 8 is Starfield, and I gave Starfield a 4.5 out of 5, so a 9 out of 10. Man, there's a lot I could say about Starfield, honestly. I mean, I just beat it recently, so it's the last game I beat. I started it, I think, pretty much when it came out, and then I kind of stopped. Starfield is not perfect. There are a lot of things that I didn't love about it. Namely, I think the skill system is one of the bigger things that it lacks. But even despite that, dude, like I just kept coming back to it. And this is even also having played Baldur's Gate 3, which I think, like, you know, when you've played Baldur's Gate 3, a lot of games are gonna feel like, what are you doing, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But especially Starfield, because it is so similar in like the kind of storytelling that they're trying to go for, from like, you know, lots of NPCs, RPG systems, that kind of thing. I think to me, what really is really cool about this game is like it really succeeds in like what they were trying to do, which is that like they wanted to create like this interstellar sandbox, and it really feels that way. Like I'm like going from planet to planet, and like they all honestly feel pretty distinct. And there's all these sort of like sci-fi fantasies that I can get lost in. Like I can be like, I can join the space pirates and like go through a giant quest line of that they're doing that. I can join the Freestar Rangers, and then I can be like a space cowboy and go through a whole other storyline that does that. There's a whole storyline that's about like aliens, and it's very like Aliens the film franchise reminiscent. So I feel like if you love sci-fi, which I really do, you're gonna like, that's gonna be like the cherry on top for you. You're gonna appreciate the ways it brings all these different kinds of sci-fi into it. And then also, like, I mean, looking at the footage now, is like the gunplay was like so solid, which was like one of the biggest surprises to me. Like I had like 9 different weapons like slotted in, and I would like switch between them. I would be darting back and forth on my jetpack. I just thought it was really satisfying, and I'm gonna keep playing it, honestly. There are things that I want to do still. And
people talk really highly of the new game plus.
Yeah, I'm like super, like there's a whole huge spoilery thing to like the new game plus that's like really freaking cool. Like one of the coolest little like things that I've seen a game do. Yeah, I don't know. I think Starfield, I kind of wrote this in my review where like I feel like if Starfield had come out any other year, like I think the conversation about it would be very different. And I think it rightfully got overshadowed by Baldur's Gate 3 and just a bunch of other games. But I think I'm hoping that they really are committed to this game. I know that they're gonna do DLC for it. They have like a DLC plan for it called Shattered Space, so they haven't talked about too much. My hope is that like they can fix a couple things. They can kind of have its own little like Phantom Liberty moment, where they like overhaul the skill systems, and then people are really like, oh man, Starfield really is dope, like let's give it its flowers. But yeah, I loved it, and I mean I've been telling you to play it a ton. I know you'll get around to it, but it was awesome. I really did love this game.
So moving on to the number 7, I also had Mario Bros. Wonder pretty high up here. It was my number 7. Again, still 9 out of 10. Everything Gabe said, I felt that too. I actually ended up 100%ing it, which I'm not saying like I 100%ed it. I want people to know that because it was really freaking hard to 100%. Okay, that last level, I told Gabe after I beat it, I think I spent 2 to 3 straight hours on the last level, and I think it took me 150 plus tries. But I did it, and I felt really good about it afterwards. I didn't like it in the moment, but I felt really good about it. But overall, it was just really good. I mean, the big cliche cringe thing is like it was like wonderful. There was a lot of moments that made you feel like wonder, and yeah, it just had that Nintendo magic, but just times 10. It's not my favorite Mario game of all time. I thought it could have been at some points. I was like, maybe this is gonna be it, but it just doesn't have the same level of like grandiose that Mario Odyssey had. I don't know if a 2D Mario could ever do that compared to a 3D Mario, but this is easily. It was a little late, but
forgot I have this.
No, you're good. I don't know if a 2D Mario can ever get there, but this is definitely the closest it could possibly be. Yeah, loved it. Really glad I 100%ed it. Wish that I could have played more of it with Gabe. We played the entire, pretty much first half of the game together. Yeah. Honestly, wish I could have played most of it with him in co-op, which I think really speaks to how fun it was with friends. But yeah, great, absolutely amazing game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. it's definitely one where it's like it felt good to me to be able to share in like your love of Mario, because you are the Mario guy. You're the resident Mario guy that we all know. So that is really cool. All right, so my number 7 is a game that I think not very many people have played.
This will be the huge sleeper of this list, because most of this list is like, oh yeah, I think everybody who like pays attention to gaming culture, other than maybe Dredge, have heard of these games. This one for sure you probably haven't heard of.
Yes. So I think every year I try to like find 1 or 2 games that I'm sort of like, oh, I'm gonna play that, even though it looks like a game that I wouldn't necessarily play. Like, I really try to do that. I think I've tried to do that the past like 2 or 3 years. And so this year's sort of like artsy fartsy game, if you will, to me was this game called the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. I just remember I read an article about it on Polygon, and then it was like, whoa, this looks really cool. I think it was only $15 on Switch, and I was sort of feeling like playing like a narrative game. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this one because it is really cool. But the basis of it is that you play as this girl named Fortuna, and she's a witch, and she gets like exiled from her coven type of thing, because like her sort of witch specialty is that she's a divination witch, so she can like predict the future and shit like that. But the thing is that like the whole game is like you spend this time playing as this girl, and your tarot cards get taken away, and then the big part of the gameplay is that you craft new tarot cards. So there's like this little creative aspect where you're kind of like putting these little pieces together and making these illustrations, and then the tarot card will form, and then it'll have this sort of like these sort of themes that then you can later use this card in like conversation when you do readings to people. So there's like that's like kind of like most of what you do in the game, but then the other half is like you're talking to people and they're like telling you their problems, and then you like you do a reading for them. And then there's like a huge twist in the game, which not necessarily a spoiler, but it turns out that like the ability that she has isn't that she's reading fortunes, but that she's like writing them. And essentially she's like creating the future. And so it was like such a crazy part of it, because like that up until that point, all of the readings that you've done, you hadn't really thought about it from that perspective, and you're telling people certain things because you get the option to tell them like what you want to tell them in the reading. And so then it turns out like you've essentially told people things that are gonna happen. It was just really cool, and it honestly it was just like a really nice short little like narrative game. I really enjoyed it. I think it had like really good writing. It felt very relevant to like, I don't know, things that people go through nowadays. And the art style was just awesome. I just like love this little like pixel art style. So it was a really cool game. And I think for $15, I think that was like the seal of the deal to me. I think if there was any more than that, I'd be like, I don't know. But for $15, I think it was solid. So that's my little.
The fact that it's your number 7 is pretty huge.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I mean, I thought about it a lot. I listened to the soundtrack of this game all the freaking time. And I really could not fault it for much. And so that to me, that's where it's just like, it just feels like it has to gotta be pretty up there. So that's my number 7 there.
So my number 6, I won't talk too long on it because I did butt in a little bit when Gabe was talking about it, but my number 6 was Final Fantasy 16. I've always been a little bit more of a Final Fantasy guy than Gabe. Not like a huge one, but I do like Final Fantasy. I've played several of the titles. Loved Final Fantasy 16 for all the reasons Gabe mentioned. The combat was fantastic. The story was engaging. One thing he didn't mention that I know that he probably wanted to was the soundtrack.
Oh,
was
yeah,
just
true.
so good. I was so happy to see that it won a Game of the Year for soundtrack. It 100% deserved it. The biggest rob for all of us at the Game Awards this year was that it wasn't included in the overall Game of the Year and therefore was not in the orchestra, because this soundtrack popped off so hard in those boss fights. But I actually got really close to 100%ing it. I was only 2 trophies away, and one of those was beating it on New Game Plus, and that wasn't going to happen because it's a long game. But I put a lot of time into it. I did every side quest in the game. So I got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly with the side quests, which is sad because some of the side quests were so cool, but they were like muddied below all this crap filler side quests. So there was a little bit, part of the problem in Final Fantasy 16 was its bloat. But by the time I was done with it, I kept wondering, like, is this like an all-timer? Which when I say all-timer, we kind of use that term to talk about like, is this one of those ones where it'll go in like my top 15 ever, or my top 50 ever, or whatever. Didn't quite get there because of those like very obvious faults, but for what it was, I thought it was amazing, and I was really glad to see it got that soundtrack award, because 100% deserving. In a year again of great games and great soundtracks, Final Fantasy 16 was the best.
Yeah, no, it was really good, honestly, especially during the boss fights, because like when those like themes would pop off in the fight,
it's playing in my head right now. You know, it's playing in my head.
No, same. You just like sit up and you're just like, okay, here we go. You know.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we are at my number 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Super stoked to talk about this game. So my number 6 is Marvel Spider-Man 2, which is my first 5 out of 5. Man, Spider-Man 2, dude, this is such a cool game. Or no, I didn't give this a 5 out of 5. Did I? No.
There's a 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, you're not at your 5 of 5.
That's right. Okay, I give this a 4.5. I was thinking about that, yeah, because I think I gave the original one a 9, and then I gave Miles Morales a 10.
A 5.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. But man, yeah, I absolutely love Marvel Spider-Man 2. First of all, the beginning of the game is just like amazing. It just starts off like on such a crazy like set piece that like totally sets the tone for what you're about to experience. I thought the storyline was really good in this one. Like they really went to like that darker theme. Obviously the abilities with Venom that we're kind of seeing a little bit here.
The abilities in this game are so good.
Yeah, just so cool. That was awesome because I felt like the combat, you're sort of like, well, going into a sequel, you're going to lose a little bit of the novelty of that. And they did kind of up the ante with like the Venom suit and some of the newer abilities that Miles gets. But I think also just the open world is just awesome, and I really love the addition of Brooklyn. And I mean, it just feels like one of my favorite open worlds at this point, just because like it feels so complete. Just like going from Manhattan, going to Brooklyn, going to Queens, and it all feels like it has like a distinct feel to it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I did a lot of the open world stuff, maybe not as much as I did, I think, in the first game. But I did the stuff that I really wanted to do, which I felt very like, oh, this is like really engaging and I'm enjoying this. I think to me, the only sort of thing that keeps it from that 10 out of 10 is that there are certain story beats that I was like, oh, you didn't totally nail this and that.
The character development, I don't feel like was always there. The story line was good, but the character development was like, a little lacking.
Yes, exactly. But I think like for doing this sort of crazy experiment of like, hey, we're gonna have this game that essentially has 2 protagonists, it's like, I think that's really cool. And I kind of wish maybe Miles had a little bit more to do in the main storyline. But he gets to shine a lot with the side quest, which I think was really cool. So yeah, overall, I was just super pumped for it. And I think where it's going, it like has me so excited. Like there's just so many different story beats that like I feel like the third game is gonna be like incredible, like gonna blow people away. But I was really happy that this got nominated and that it really made it into that conversation, because there's just it was so like totally deserving for game of the year, so to be there at least. But yeah, that's my number 6. Before we keep going on number 5, quick check-in with the chat if you're still with us. Love to hear your thoughts on some of these games. Like, what were some of your top 10 games? Are we lining up with what you thought? Did you play some of these games too? Just a little nudge there. Let us know what you're thinking.
Anybody popping off for the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood?
That's right, exactly. All right, dude, hit us with your number 5.
Yeah, we're in the top 5. My number 5 is finally I get to talk about a game before Gabe talks about it, is Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon.
Hit it.
I think both of us went in not even sure if we were going to play Fires of Rubicon. And what a mistake that was to have that mindset going in. We both loved this game. The combat is so slick. Only gets better as you play. Like, the whole mech fantasy achieved 100%.
Yep.
But the thing that really pushed it for us, again, it's kind of like Liza P earlier. It's so surprising that From Software has it in them to make like an emotionally impactful story. And that's 100% what this game is. It actually has emotion to it. Like it's a really, you never see a human, but it's a very human driven story.
Oof,
and I think that
good
was
line.
what really pushed it over the line for me of like, whoa, this is special. This is not talked about in the way it should be talked about. Disappointed it wasn't in the game of the year conversation. Kind of surprised at that. I guess it's just because, again, the bloat at the top of this year, but yeah, really deserved to be there. And again, my like theme for the top 10 is these games where they just had these just goosebump, walk away moments, and Armored Core 6 was full of them. Gabe played this one before I played it, and he loved it, was raving about it, and I immediately got into it. Actually, I think we were sort of playing it parallel, but I was behind you. I was behind you.
I was only a couple hours ahead of you, yeah.
And every time one of those moments would happen, I'd text Gabe and he'd be like, I know, bro. Yeah. I know. I can't spoil any of them, but there's so many of them. If you did consider playing this, but you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm not like a mech guy. I don't think either of us were like mech guys going into this, but left like, please, From Software, continue this series. We are 100% here for it. Yeah. Again, still in the 9 out of 10 range. We're getting close to that 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 range. But yeah, we loved Armored Core 6. Great soundtrack too.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's awesome. Love that. Cool. My number 5 game of the year is Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. And I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. For context, I played Cyberpunk 2077. I think when it hit, it's like 1.5 patch or something like that, like 1.0, 1.5, where basically everyone was like, hey guys, you can play Cyberpunk, it's cool. And so I played that last year, and I really enjoyed it, honestly. I thought it was phenomenal. I think I did give it a 9. I thought the main storyline was great. I thought the combat was really good then. I honestly thought all the RPG stuff was pretty good then as well. And I was super excited to play Phantom Liberty. I actually intentionally left like a couple things that I didn't do in overall Cyberpunk to do in Phantom Liberty. Captain Commando, Cyberpunk isn't co-op. If you're just joining, we're kind of talking about pretty much all sorts of games, single player, co-op, anything's on the table. But yeah, no, this is strictly single player. But yeah, I just thought Phantom Liberty totally blew me away.
Yeah.
The storyline for Phantom Liberty I thought was genuinely one of the best storylines I've played in a game. Like, it just felt cinematic, it felt mature, it felt really well written. It paid off like so many of what you wanted out of like a Cyberpunk game. And
the decisions were heart-wrenching.
The decisions, like the decision making, the sort of like political spy drama of it all was like so cool. Dogtown as like a place was awesome. And then, I already liked the combat. I already liked the RPG. I already liked the skill points. And then they overhauled all that and like made it even better. And I was like, oh my God, like the build that I ended up making in Phantom Liberty was even better than my original build. And I just thought it was awesome. Genuinely could not get enough of this game. I tried to do as much as I could. And I think you'll say this too, where it's like, I felt sad beating it because it's like such a great world to like reside in. To be in like the Cyberpunk world is so much fun. You just kind of want to live in that world as much as you can. But yeah, that's my number 5 game of the year, 4.5 out of 5.
And conveniently, it is my number 4. So I'll continue off of that. I actually didn't play Cyberpunk at all up until this moment, which was basically the second time that people were like, okay, but for real, it's time to play Cyberpunk. So I got in there and I finally played it. Love the base game. The story was very character driven, which I thought was important. I love the like different relationships you build and whatnot. But it wasn't until Phantom Liberty to where that choice really came in. And that to me was the big takeaway from Phantom Liberty is I've never played a game where the choices I was killing myself over. Yeah. Sometimes when you're playing a game with choices like, well, I'll just watch a cutscene later, so like it doesn't really matter what I choose. It's like the thing in the back of my head that I don't want to admit I'm thinking about. But in Phantom Liberty, right towards the end, of course, no spoilers, but towards the end, you're making these decisions, especially right up to the end. you're making these decisions and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do right now. This is pulling me in so many different directions. So well done.
Quick little aside to even saying that about like watching the cutscenes, I ended up going to do each branching pathway because I honestly had to see it. Like I was like I had to see each branching pathway, which is crazy. I never do that in a game either. So yeah. But yeah, continue.
The only reason I didn't do that is because Gabe told me that one of the branching pathways was very scary, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do a scary thing.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story. And yeah, the RPG systems like this is one of my favorite skill trees in a game because it really did feel like every skill, every skill totally changed and enhanced the V that I wanted to make. Like I wanted to make a V that could throw knives and just like go crazy in battle. Or he also could go into this hacking mode. So I had this like stealth version of my V and this like crazy knife throwing version of my V. And I was able to create that through the skill tree. So what they did to improve upon it was super impressive. And it's one of those things where now, you know, when they eventually get Cyberpunk 2078 or whatever they're going to call it, 100% there for it and ready to dive back in. Totally. But I will not go back in for the update to hang out with Pan Am, but I do want to. So
yeah, you and me both.
I don't think I want to re-download the game.
Too many games to re-download lately. I feel that.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So this will be another back-to-back, spoiler alert. But my number 4 is Baldur's Gate 3, which I gave a 5 out of 5. This is my first 5 out of 5. I think this is my first 5 out of 5.
Yeah, this is where we get into the 5 out of 5s, and just so we can have, I guess, more of a conversation. This was again one of the back-to-backs, like Gabe said. I also gave Baldur's Gate 3 a 5 out of 5, and it's my number 3 overall game. So we kind of have it right there.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about this being my number 4 because, like, obviously it's like a genre-defining game of the generation sort of game.
Yes.
I think to me, it probably would be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, these top 4 games to me are just so hard to rank in my like personal ranking. I mean, it just feels
they're all iconic. They're all iconic.
Yeah, and they're just like it's like they're like on top of each other, in my opinion.
I think it's one of those things where even though we gave it our number 4 and our number 3, it's like, you know, when it won Game of the Year over what I chose as Game of the Year, I wasn't upset at all. I was like, yes, so glad that Baldur's Gate 3 got it because it is the game. It's almost like I can say it is the Game of the Year. It just wasn't my Game of the Year, but I know it's the Game of the Year because it's like you said, it's genre defining.
I think to me, part of it is the fact that we played this in co-op. So we had our co-op campaign, but I haven't played this by myself. I haven't had my like own single player campaign, which I plan to do, but it definitely wasn't something I was going to be able to do and still play all the games that I wanted to play this year. So that's something I want to do next year. And I think that's definitely going to give me that like next level appreciation for it, of being able to be like, wow, I did my co-op campaign and I did like my evil single player campaign sort of thing, which I definitely want to do. So I think that would maybe even put it higher than it is, but again, it's just hard to say because the next 3 games I'm like really, really up there for me. So yeah, but you give your little spiel on it, bro.
Yeah, I also, you know, obviously we played it together in co-op. I do have a single player campaign going. I'm about 15 hours in. And it's crazy to think that, like, we have had a very complete co-op campaign for the most part. We're not really skipping a whole lot. We're finding things that, we didn't expect to find. We're going on the path. And I'm still playing it, and I'm, you know, going through some things in the single player campaign. I'm still absolutely in love with it. That I think that just speaks so much to like the actual story and narrative and characters and decisions and relationships you can build. It really is overwhelming what they were able to do here, and it's like, can anybody actually do this ever again other than Larian? It's like hard to picture, you know, genre defining, but like, can anybody compete with it? Can anybody like ever get to this level? I honestly don't know. It's that amazing what they were able to do and they were able to sort of weave here. And then when you add on the fact that you can do it in 4-player co-op and it holds up, is just like crazy. That is like mind-boggling. So yeah, 100% deserving of everything it's gotten. I really want to continue my single-player campaign. You know, we're at the point in the year where we're not really playing a lot for the channel right now. Actually, other than this. So I want to just keep going and continue to play this game on my own too, and kind of close down my year playing Baldur's Gate 3. So
yeah. I'm really excited.
Gabe's. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna say I'm really excited to kind of give this my undivided attention and like do my single player campaign next year. I think I'm just like so excited for that. So
yeah. So again, that was Gabe's number 4, his first 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, and my number 3, my first 10 out of 10 as well. What was your next 10 out of 10? Your number 3.
All right, cool. So my number 3 obviously is Tears of the Kingdom. Which is, again, crazy to think that this is my number 3 game when it definitely set us my number 1 spot for like a good portion of the year. But again, like I think when we're talking about these like top 4 games in my mind, like they're all on top of each other for me. Like it is like, I mean, it is like
you're picking what's the term, picking hairs or whatever.
Yeah, it's
something like that.
Yeah, they're so close. But man, when I think back to Zelda, which is hard because we played it so early in the year too, but I was looking through my GG review real quick, and one thing that I read is the first 20 hours of this game are some of the best I've had in all of my time playing video games. And it's true. It really is. Like the opening of this game just had me my jaw on the floor, just like so entrenched in the world of this game. And I think there's a lot of assumptions people made about this game where like it's on the same map and like it still has a lot of the same weapon system. But like obviously like the big ultra hand and the crafting abilities, huge, just like completely redefined the game, like flip the table on you, like you're approaching everything so differently. But then like conveniently as I'm talking about this Zelda falling into the underground, what was that area called? I don't remember. Remember what the underground was called?
Dude, yeah, I can't think of the name of it. That's so
anyways,
funny.
This is no spoiler, they showed this as well. But there is a surface level of Hyrule, and then there's obviously the Sky Islands of Hyrule, and then there is this whole underground area of Hyrule, which covers largely the whole surface area of like the map, which is insane. And I really love that part of the game because it turned the whole game into this like horror game aspect where you're like down there and it's dark and you have to like have these lights. But I don't know, I mean, you could say so many things about this game. I mean, I'll probably just close out by saying I'm pretty sure I put 50 hours into this game in 1 week, which is like literally insane. Like, and I think
How's that even possible?
Like, I mean, we were just playing this so all of us, like you and I and Jake and Christian, all our friends were playing this, talking about it. It really was really special.
It is the game. It is like Elden Ring last year. It's the most hours both of us put into a game this year. Yes. And it's not even really that close.
No. And yeah, it's just it was truly awesome. Like great game.
Yeah, great game. All right, moving on to the number 2. Wow, we're here, man. We're at the number 2. So here's a repeat. I did end up giving Marvel's Spider-Man 2 a 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10. It is my number 2 overall game of the year. I love Spider-Man. I love everything about Spider-Man. I love the movies. I love the comics. I love the TV shows, and I love the video games. And what Marvel Spider-Man 2 made me kind of get to the point of is it's almost kind of weird where, I don't know, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is now going to be like one of my favorite games of all time. But it's really just a reflection of this Marvel Spider-Man series is just one of my favorite series of all time. And this to me was the best version in that series. And it's like, well then, it's gotta be one of my favorite games of all time. I love the gameplay. I love the music, the score. I love the switch between Miles and Spider-Man, how you get those different scores. Like, that always gets me when you switch to Miles and it's got that little bit of beat in the background. I'm like, oh, I love that. The one thing we talked about when Gabe was talking about it was I just didn't feel like the character development was quite there. It just does a couple of those sort of like, what's the right word? Like knee-jerk sort of, oh, I don't know. How'd you get to that point? Like, it didn't feel like there was enough to get there. Yeah. Which is just my biggest thing at the end of it was I just wish there was more to it. I platinumed Spider-Man 2. It only took 30 hours to platinum it, and I just was like, man, I could have played this for like another 30 hours and been so satisfied. It almost felt like it went away in a blink of an eye, even though I played 30 hours of it. It just was that enjoyable. So
Well, maybe
Yeah,
this
I'm
is,
glad that.
I was gonna say maybe this is also a good point to talk about like what does a 5 out of 5 mean for you and me individually? Because like you can have a five out
That
of
is a
five
good point.
game, you can have a 5 out of 5 game that still has some flaws, right?
I think
Um,
5 out of 5 for me is not doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean there's no flaws. I think it could mean up to the point of masterpiece. Doesn't always mean that for me. I think for me, a 5 out of 5 means that I'm considering it as like a legitimate all-time, like put it in my top 10 games of all time or my top 15. Like I need to maybe like move some things out to make room for this game. Maybe not necessarily true, but for Spider-Man, it was true.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
I think
there's
that's what I
also,
kind of look like as a
there's like
5 out
that
of
like
5.
emotional sort of like beyond just
Yes.
like game. Like it was like oh, I'm thinking about this. You know, I feel like that's especially true for
Yes.
this game to you. You know, where it's like you have this sort of like bond, emotional connection.
Yeah, I feel like
to
I've
it.
bonded with this world and these characters. I mean, it's weird. I sometimes I think my favorite one actually is the Miles Morales Spider-Man, and it's because it was a game that I love so much, and it came at a really interesting time in life. You know, with COVID going on, it came out around Christmas. It came out when we got our PS5s, and there was just like it just bonded with me. You know what I mean? Like I just when I think of that Christmas New York and Miles Morales Spider-Man, I'm just like,
And
oh
that
man,
song, that Lecrae song.
yeah, the song, the Lecrae song going on. It's just it's a lot to take in emotionally, and I just like feel that emotion every time I step back into this world. And this to me was the best version of that world. And so it's weird. It feels like I'm saying, it's just more evidence that this series is just one of my favorite series ever in gaming. So I just wanted to give this game that sort of like, yeah, this is one of my favorite games of all time sort of nod, you know?
Yeah, totally. No, that's great. I think to piggyback on that, and you know, conveniently, my number 2 game of the year is Armored Core 6, or was it? Yeah, Armored Core 5. Was it 6 or 5?
6.
Yeah,
Six,
sorry.
six,
Armored
six.
Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. And to me, something I really look forward to, or something I really look to sort of like what I call a 5 out of 5 game is like something I just value a lot in games nowadays is originality, is like I'm playing a game that I've never played before, which is hard to do. I mean, especially nowadays when you think about it, like there's games that like God of War is a great example. I mean, God of War has RPG elements. You know, like there's all this sort of proliferation of different game types in all games. Like games that have open world elements to it, games that have roguelite elements to it, games that have RPG elements to it. Where like before, like those things were separate. Now a lot of things are kind of like more homogenized. And I feel like when you play a game that you're like, wow, I've never played anything like this, it feels like extra special. And I definitely feel that way about Armored Core. Like, yes, there's been, you know, 5 Armored Cores before this, and there's been other mech games, but like no one has done it to this level, you know, of like spectacle and like graphical fidelity. And again, the story was a big part of it too, where it's like I really connected to some of these characters that we only saw in text boxes, and like the lore of this game, and like Rusty, oh my god,
Rusty, our
boy,
my boy.
my boy. But yeah, and I think to me, like, there's just so many moments that I think about this game that I can tell you, like, when I beat Balteus, when I beat the crab sort of boss sort of thing, like, just so many really, really cool moments. And I really love the build crafting in this game. I really got into that aspect. I think I had 5 different mechs that I honestly switched around fairly regularly, which I thought was really cool. I came up with cheesy names for all of them. They had like I got really into the sort of like decals and the colors, which is like kind of something I like in games a lot.
I think that's the one thing that held me back from that 5 out of 5, bringing it even higher, is I didn't get into that sort of part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad, but it goes to show that like it is there if you dig into it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of it too. I think that's one of the weaknesses of it, where it's like you can go through the game and like, you know, have like 1 or 2 builds that you can kind of take.
Yeah, I had one build that I did the whole game, and it got me through everything.
Exactly. So it's like, again, back to that sort of conversation where it's like you can have a game that like has a couple of flaws, but it can still be a 5 out of 5 game to me. And definitely to this game, it's just super unique. Never played a game like this, and the storyline really hit with me. So yeah, that's my number 2. We got Ash.
What's up, Schlen? Schlen's a former student.
That's what I thought. So hello there. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for the support.
Schlen, tell Sly I said hi.
All right, hit us with here we are. We've made it. hit us with your
Yeah, this is it.
number one game of the year.
This is our number one. Yeah, this is our number one overall. My game of the year for 2023, which I do think in my time, like really paying attention to games, is the best year of gaming I've ever had. So I feel really good about the fact that Tears of the Kingdom was my number one overall game. I've always been a big Zelda guy. Like my first game I ever beat was Ocarina of Time when I was a little kid. So it holds a lot to me. You know, the music holds a lot to me, the characters, the quirkiness of it all. And Tears of the Kingdom did like all of that so perfectly. You know, again, my theme for this top 10 is those goose pimple moments. And Tears of the Kingdom, I think I got emotional at least 3 times during this game. Definitely cried at the end just because of the combination of soundtrack and like themes and the characters and the history behind it. It was like everything I think I ever wanted it to be, which is hard to imagine because Breath of the Wild before this I would have said is probably the best game I've ever played, and Tears of the Kingdom I think is just better Breath of the Wild. So going into it with like so much hype and it surpassing that, I like can't comprehend how they pulled that off. I don't understand how they do that, and they did it.
It is honestly crazy.
It felt like the culmination of, you know, I'm 28 now. I started gaming when I was 5, and it felt like the culmination of all of that into one game, just being everything I've ever wanted gaming to be. So, yeah, that is why Tears of the Kingdom is my number one overall. And, you know, when I look back, probably the best game I've ever played, other than maybe Dark Souls. I don't know. It's hard to say. They're just both so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely deserving of number one overall. I was sad that it didn't win the game of the year, but I thought Baldur's Gate 3 was just as deserving.
Totally.
So, yeah, it's understandable it didn't get it, but it was right there, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I feel that. That's awesome. It's cool to hear you talk about it from like that like overall like full circle moment of like a series you just like have so much history with. I think that's super dope.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So cool. Here we go. This is the end of this, somewhat the end of this block. Got a little bit more to talk about, but my number one game of the year is Alan Wake 2. Context for this game, which is just I just love this game so much. One part of it is that like I loved Control a ton. Like Control was like such a revelation for me of like bringing so many aspects of things that I love, like movies and film and acting and just like all this stuff into like a game, a little bit of thrill. And then they made this, and this is a horror game, which I love horror games. I love survival games. But really, like, I think I wrote this in my review. I don't think I've ever played a game that, like, so fully, succinctly brings, like, so many things that I love into one package. Like, this is a video game. This is a horror game. It has, like, the storytelling has aspects of it being, like, True Detective, Lost, which is, like, one of my favorite shows of all time. It just has so many different, like, things that I love that, like, I felt like I was a target audience. Like, I think there's, like, few things in life that you feel like, wow, I feel like that was, like, made for me. Like, Sam Lake made this game for me, even though we've never met. You know, and I genuinely feel that way. Like I was like, this game just feels so like all these intersections of like who Gabe is, Alan Wake 2. You know, but yeah, I really did enjoy it so much. Like I every aspect of it. Like I love the combat, the storytelling was amazing. The sort of like dual perspective, like playing as Saga, and it's like this like True Detective like cult story sort of thing, and you're like piecing all these things together, which is something I love. Like I love stories where you have to like theorize and piece things together, and then you go and play with Alan, and then it's like a full-on survival horror game, and it's spooky, and it's like genuinely terrifying. Like this is honestly low-key some really scary moments in gaming that I've had, which I a lot of times did not expect, like to be as scared as I was playing this, but I love that obviously. And I just think that it really pushed like the medium forward, was like having the sort of like the cutscenes was like the real actors in it, and like just like crazy like meta moments. Like I really feel like we're gonna look back and see this as like whoa, like this really pushed like what games can be. So yeah, I think when I think about it in that way, like it was just hard not to make this my game of the year.
Yeah, it's just speaking your language too much for it not to be.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, honestly. So, but yeah, here's our list back to back here. This is my list overall, and you kind of seen a couple games in there that we didn't talk about past the 15. And then here we got Andrew's list. Do you have any honorable mentions, bro? I mean, I think we can wrap this up in like 30-ish minutes. We got a couple other things to talk about, but 2-hour stream, I like that. I think that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, a couple honorable mentions. Don't want to spend too much time on it. Definitely Disney Illusion Island was one that didn't quite make the cut, but I really appreciated a lot of what it was doing. The accessibility of it, the co-op of it. It's like one of the few couch co-op games that really cares about how it plays on the couch. I've mentioned that a couple times, and I'll continue to mention it. Where it pulls out the camera so that you don't have that whole like, oh, but we can't see because the person in front's moving too fast. Like, it doesn't do that as much. The soundtrack was incredible. It actually just feels really good to play. Art direction was incredible. One of the things I will say I think is really cool is I have a little cousin who's getting into gaming. He's like 8 or 9. And he borrowed my Switch, and he's like, oh, you have the Mickey Mouse game. And I was like, yeah, do you want to play? And he's like, yeah, can I try it out? And I was like, yeah, sure, man, go play it for like a little bit. We were having like a dinner. He goes off, he ends up playing it for like a half an hour on his own. His mom's like, where is he? And I was like, oh, he's playing Mickey on my Switch. Sorry about that. She was like, oh, that's fine. He ended up going and buying the game, and then he ended up beating the entire game on his own, which I think is so awesome. Cool that this game is introducing him to a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
A genre that I don't think a lot of kids play nowadays. And so, yeah, I just think it deserves a lot of credit where it necessarily didn't get a lot of credit. My other shout out is for Sons of the Forest, where it's just like, that was just a really good game that we played early in the year that I feel like we keep forgetting we played. But when we were playing it, we're like, dang, this is really good. We love what we played of it. A lot of like cool story moments were like, whoa, we like hit these story moments where it would be like, wow, I did not see that coming. But then also just the like gameplay elements of it, of like having NPC partners. It like made making your fort more fun, stuff like that. Yeah, just really, really good stuff. It got a little bit of flack because of the early access, but it's one of the better early access games I've played.
100%.
It felt very complete even then, and it's coming out in 1.0 soon, and it's even more complete. So yeah, good shout out for Sons of the Forest.
Yeah, we had a ton of fun playing this game. Like I loved it. I could not be more excited to try to. I would love to kind of get back in there for 1.0 and obviously put out a full review for it. So.
Yeah,
and I think we will. Cool. I got two little what do you call it? Honorable mentions as well. The first one is for Hi-Fi Rush, which I think was the first game I played, one of the first bigger games I played this year. And this is awesome. Like I really enjoyed this game. The music, the art style. This is something that like when I first saw it revealed, I was sort of like good for them, but like I think it looks kind of lame. Like just being 100% honest.
Yeah, we both felt that way.
Yeah. And then it like obviously shadow dropped during Xbox's thing, and then people were talking about this game nonstop. Like it was the talk of the town for that month, and I was like, really, this game? But honestly, when you play it yourself, like you really do see like what people are talking about. And I even thought like, well, maybe the gameplay's good, but the story just seems so cheesy. Honestly, like the story is really earnest, and it's like to that point where you're sort of like, it's silly, but it kind of gets you a little bit. I thought all the character designs were awesome, but yeah, again, the sort of like music gameplay I thought was really solid, and I did really get into it. And then my other little shout out is for Gunbrella. But yeah, this was quick sort of thing on this game. the storyline was really cool. The sort of like noir stuff was really interesting. I thought the art style was great, and the gunplay and the sort of mobility of everything was really cool. I think there's a couple things that like it just could have done better. Like the bosses were super easy, but I think for like trying to play something on Switch, and like if you see this on sale, it's like I think it's a great choice. It's not like a Metroidvania or a roguelite. It's just like an adventure game, and it's like super simple in that regard. But I really enjoyed it actually. But yeah, those are our honorable mentions. So what do we got next?
Let's do a little block where we're going to ask each other some questions. We're gonna call it our secret superlatives, where these are a little off the wall questions to maybe shout out games we already talked about, maybe shout out games we didn't talk about, and just see where it goes. We don't know where it's gonna go. We don't need to spend too much time on it. We can just kind of knock it out.
Yeah, like
see where it goes.
You brought 5 questions and I brought 5 questions, but neither of us.
And we don't know what the questions are. Yeah, we don't know.
Neither of us know what each other asked. All right, you want me to start?
Yeah, you will go back and back.
All right, cool. So my first little superlative / question is favorite gaming moment in 2023. So you answer and then I'll answer. Or I can answer first because I do have mine. I'll answer first. I have mine.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead.
All right, my favorite game moment of 2023. I mean, it has to be when I beat Balteas in Armored Core 6.
Yeah.
So Balteas was this boss, if you haven't played the game, that was like notoriously difficult. Like it was like the hard skill check, like buckle up, boys. Like if you ain't, you got to become a man to get through this one. Like the big skill check. And man, it was hard. Like that was a hard boss, and I was struggling with it for a minute there, and I was trying a bunch of different builds, and like when I finally got it and I beat it, I literally jumped out of my seat. Like literally, I was like, oh my god, let's go. Like I jumped off. And also just like that boss fight, the music and the theming of it, that introduces like the best character in the game, like just perfect like summation of like, this is why I play video games, you know, like just hype, like heart is beating, like I fucking did it, like that was the feel of it. So that's my favorite moment.
Mine is similar, where I also probably got on my seats. I don't want to spoiler it, but it's the moment when you get the Master Sword in Tears of the Kingdom. Again, emotional. You know, gameplay wise, so cool. The way it happened for Gabe and I were very different. I immediately called him and we talked about our different ways that it happened, which was just like, I mean, that's just so cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, that was such a high in a game full of highs. That was really cool. All right, my first question, we'll just go, well, you'll see. It's Maybe we should have conferred. My first question is, what moment in gaming this year made you want to say, "Can I get a Hoya?" but you didn't because no one was around?
Oh
so
my god!
Pretty much the same question, but with a different taste to it. So just go with your number 2 moment.
All right, let me think.
I'll go. My number 2 moment would be
I'm gonna view this also from the perspective of like.
The Hoya,
and also like I want someone there to see this, you know, like
yes,
like a little
okay. I have one ready from that perspective.
Okay,
too,
go for it.
Yeah, I think that would be for sure. I'll go picking a boss fight in Final Fantasy 16 is hard, but probably the one against the Blue Dragon. I'll just leave it at that. Was like I wish Gabe was there so I could be like, can I get a Hoya in this moment, my guy? Because this is wild. That whole like probably like a 2-hour boss fight or lead up to it was probably like 5 hours. That whole like 5-hour spread was just peak gaming. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with if you watch the Game Awards, you've kind of seen this moment, which is there's a whole musical inside of Alan Wake 2. And it's honestly insane. It's a whole musical number, and they performed it at the Game Awards. And it's something that I was just like, it's so funny and also just so off the wall that like I want someone there to experience that with. That I was just sitting on the couch thinking like, this is crazy. Like, what is happening? Kathleen was actually there with me, thankfully. So she did get she didn't give me the Hoya, but like she should have.
Yeah, she didn't look at you and you're just like, Hoya.
But like, you know, I felt like it was implied. It was an implied Hoya, you know?
Yeah.
So All right, cool. This is my next one. I call this the Die on the Hill of award, which I put in parentheses, game that you strongly advocate for. So to me, this is like, out of your whole list, what game are you sort of like, go play this game? I have technically two, really. I'm gonna say my obvious answer is Ember Knights, because I can't shut up about this game throughout all the fucking videos we put out. But my real one, I would say, is Dredge. Like, I just think Dredge is awesome. I think almost anyone could really enjoy that game. And I think if like you haven't played spooky games, there's a little bit of spookiness to it, and it could kind of get you into spooky games. But like, there's just so many cool parts of that, and it's like equal parts chill and like thrilling. And this is the I'll die on the hill of go play Dredge.
Yeah, mine would be Disney Illusion Island. I already kind of talked about it. Liza P, I would say, but it is an acquired taste. I can't just be like, oh yeah, you for sure should play it. I have to be like, well, first off, but Disney Illusion Island, I think, has been that for me this year. Okay, which soundtrack gave you the most goosebumps, and approximately how many goosebumps was it?
Whoa, you got some good wording on yours. I like it. Also, we got a little shout out in the chat. Tasty Donut goes go play Suika game. I think I'm saying that right. Suika or Suka. I have seen that game. I saw Christian reviewed it. It's a little free little mini game sort of thing.
Yes, it's a puzzle game that like didn't come out this year, but like came in vogue this year out of nowhere.
That's a good way to put it. Came in vogue. But cool. Yeah, that's the down the hill for Jake. All right, so soundtrack and Goosebumps. I mean, it has to be Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy 16. It's like, come on now.
It's Final Fantasy 16, and it's about 16,000 Goosebumps.
Yeah, approximately 20,000, if I'm being totally honest.
There's just so many different moments, dude, in that game where it's just like, oh man, this is so sick.
I want it to be playing right now. I wish it could be, but it would take over the stream.
Yep. All right, so is that one yours too, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I like that. All right, here's one of my wackier questions. It's gonna go slippery slope in a lot of ways, but we're just gonna roll with it. Who is the most attractive character in 2023?
The most attractive character? Ooh, that is so tough. I can't believe you just dropped that on me, bro. Okay, the most attractive character in 2023. I'll give you a male and a female. I'm gonna go male is Clive from Final Fantasy 16. That man has the jawline that I can only wish I had.
Yes.
And then I'm gonna go with Shadowheart. I don't know. Come on. There's a reason she's the most romanced in Baldur's Gate 3. That's right. That's all I can say. Lae'zel? No, Jake. Tasty Donut says Lae'zel.
Yeah, no. I mean. I respect the choice, I guess. No. Okay. I if I wouldn't say Shadowheart, I'd say Lilith. No, I'm joking.
Lilith, honestly,
I mean, there's something there. Male character, I'm gonna say Asterion. Even though we didn't really like hang out with him that much, but like I let him bite me. So like.
Yeah, you did.
You know. Thinking female though, I mean Shadowheart was my answer. If not Shadowheart, then who was the girl from Final Fantasy 16? I should remember her name, but it's been a minute.
Jane? Something with a J. Something with a J.
Man,
shoot, it's gonna drive me crazy.
I'm looking it up. Final Fantasy 16 characters.
Jill. I was so close. Jane versus Jill.
You're close. I love Jill.
I did love Jill too. Jill was awesome. I think that we have very similar tastes apparently, because Jill would have been my second person too. Yeah, love Jill.
Lilith is a baddie though. I agree with
Lilith
that.
Lilith is a baddie.
All right.
Which game was the most Gabe game, and what did it do to bring that energy? We know the answer, but what did it do to bring that energy?
Okay, it obviously has to be Alan Wake 2. There are literal parts of Alan Wake 2 that I'm like, you stole this from Lost. And like, obviously, if you know me, I love Lost. I will die on the hill that Lost is an amazing show. And there's just parts of it that were like, what? This is Lost. Like, what the hell? There's a smoke monster in Alan Wake 2. This is crazy. So yeah, there's just a bunch of parts of that were very Gabe coded. So
Yeah, yeah. Mine would be probably Pikmin 4 because Nintendo and
dog.
that's pretty much
Dog
and dog. Yeah,
blonde dog. Oh my god. Okay, come on. That
yeah,
is
just
super
like Brady,
Andrew.
Brady the dog.
Yeah, Brady
Yeah,
is
that's-
essentially what was the character's name?
But Poochie,
Poochie.
right? Is it Poochie? Yeah, something like that. I don't remember. I gotta look that up. I really wanted to buy a plushie of that dog though,
Yes.
and it doesn't exist officially by Nintendo. Also, shout out to Sloshlin. Sloshlin is back.
All right, second to last, for me at least. Biggest game you missed out on this year.
Okay, good. I have another way to word that. Which game are you putting in the backlog, but when you look in the mirror in the morning, you know you're a fraud for believing you'll ever actually play it?
Holy crap. Was that one of your questions legit?
That's my last question. Yeah, so it's
Oh
the
my
same
God.
question, but mine's taking it the next step.
The next step. Okay, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna answer it more from your side, obviously, because it's a lot funner. So, which game am I like? I want to say I'm gonna play that, but I'm probably a fraud by saying.
But when you
that.
look in the mirror, you're a fraud for saying that.
I'm gonna say this, and like, oof, it hurts to admit this, but it's probably gonna be Dead Space. And I mean, like, I'm a horror guy, and I'm not playing Dead Space next year. What? Like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm a fraud. So.
And it's on Game Pass, dude.
I know. Like, I mean, I hope it happens, but like, chances are slim. There's lots of games I want to play.
Yeah, for me, this is gonna ruin our friendship, but it's Starfield. It's just too long. There's too many games, and that game is like at least 50 hours. It's just Tasty, get AC6.
Ooh, that hurts. No,
On your
We're not
PlayStation, bro,
taking
come
that
on.
for an answer. Tasty.
It's yeah, come on.
We
Sure enough, you
both-
can
we
play.
specifically thought of Jake playing that game too.
Yes,
actually. We
yeah,
specifically
it's
said
totally
that.
a J game.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's very Jake coded.
All right, cool. I guess this is my last question.
Okay, and I have
which-
my last one too. But yeah, you go.
Which game did you? It's the only one that's not worded cleverly. I took time to make sure they all had a
Yeah,
nice
I
wording,
honestly
but this one was
respect
just.
that. You killed it.
Which game did you like more than it probably deserved?
It probably is. It's definitely Starfield. It definitely liked it more than it deserved. Like if I wasn't a big sci-fi guy, like I probably would be like, oh, that's fine. But yeah, it's Starfield for me.
Yeah, I don't think I really have one for this question. I didn't think I would be asked it, but honestly, I can't think of a game that like. Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe I do have Spider-Man 2 too high up as my number 2.
What did Pikmin 4
But,
get
like,
on
other
Open
than
Critic?
that-
Because you love that game.
Pikmin 4 got an 87 on Open Critic, so
Yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty, that's pretty
no,
solid.
I feel like I was right there with that. So I don't really think I have any of those this year.
No,
Okay,
that's fair.
last question is your question then.
Okay, and this is a good one to end on. If you could add a co-op mode to any game of this year, which would it be?
Hey, that's a great question. I love it. There's a lot.
I have mine.
I'm
and like
I'm
honestly-
between two, but I think that it might be the same one as yours. Let's see. Let's say it at
Okay.
the same time. In 3, 2, 1.
Hogwarts
Armor Core
Legacy.
6. Ah! So
mine is
close.
Hogwarts Legacy. Honestly, Armored Core 6 is a great answer, but like, I don't know, man.
Why isn't it there? Why isn't it there? I don't understand.
I think it, honestly, I just think Hogwarts Legacy is above it. Like the idea of like you and I just like palling
Yeah,
around in
yeah.
Hogwarts, that sounds awesome. And like just
Yeah.
like, and I feel like it's also a game that I think could honestly work fairly well in co-op. Like there's some weird storytelling stuff that you'd have to like go around a little bit, but like I think there, other than that, I feel like it could honestly work really well in it. But yeah, I think mostly just for like the role play of the bros going to the old Hogwarts Academy together. So,
Yeah, that alone makes it really high up there. I feel like AC6, like, it could have co-op.
that's yeah.
You just have to. It's one of those games where it's like, just flip the switch.
Yep.
We know you could do it if you wanted to do it. Just flip the switch.
That one's very easy. I mean, it already has multiplayer technically. Oh, and like having having complementary.
And you play with
builds.
NPC characters
Yep,
all the time that
that's
help
true.
you. So it's like, just flip the switch. Just let me play as Rusty, and I can be like, "Hey, buddy."
Hey, buddy. Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
That would be awesome. We would have some. Yeah, we'd have some really fun times with that. But yeah, I mean that that's pretty much our show. And I mean, it's getting close to a 2-hour stream, which is it's pretty great actually. I mean, we didn't really towards that middle section of the top 15, we were like, woo, we're going slow on this a little bit. But yeah, let's I think for a couple minutes, anyone on the chat got anything to shout out before we peace on out of here? Any passing words, bro?
Any passing words? Nothing other than just thanks as always for tuning in, for watching.
Redfall was
we have
your
great
last
fans.
game, by the way. In case anyone was wondering, Redfall was those of our last games.
Redfall was our lowest game on our list. Understandably so. But yeah, just thanks everybody as always for watching. You know, we always say the same thing. We don't do this full time. We both have actual full-time jobs. We just do this on the side. It's a lot of work. We put a lot of ourselves into this channel. But like just the little comments we get of like, hey, you guys are so much better than you know, your subscribers say and stuff like that. Like we hear that, it means a lot to us.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, just appreciative. You know, we've gone as hard as we possibly can go for the past 2 years on this channel. So, yeah, the comments are what helps us to continue to do that because it is not easy. So
yeah. We got Tasty in the chat said any PvP or multiplayer games to shut out this year. I mean,
we didn't play a lot of PvP this year. I feel like this is the least amount of PvP we played in a year.
Yeah, I also don't feel like there were that many like new like PvP games like popping off other than fighting games. I will say the finals, which I did play the preview of, and then I've been wanting to play recently. Really great game that I really want to get more into. But yeah, I don't know if I felt like there was that many like, oh yeah, like this is a PvP game that's like totally popping off.
Yeah,
it's not a fight.
I mean, I think that's reflective
like
in the game awards
too.
For the multiplayer section. It was more co-op than it was PvP, which was cool for us to see, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, same thing. We usually have PvP multiplayer games that we enjoy, like Multiversus and Splatoon 3 from last year were huge.
Yeah,
I think they were both in my top 10. Yeah, but not this year. No, not really any PvP.
That's a primal, I guess. PvPvE.
Yeah, that's probably honestly that might be the only
that was
one
kind
we
of
did
like our
this year.
Splatoon of this year, where we kind of got all the boys together for it.
Yeah, didn't work out though.
Did not work out. But
that game needed some more juice, but that's okay.
No, yeah, to piggyback on what you said and kind of close out too is it is crazy. Yeah, this has been the biggest year for the channel. I mean, we did so much, and like I mean, like we went so hard. We introduced impressions. We did a lot more streams.
How-tos, introduced how-tos, which have been crazy successful.
Yeah, like really helpful too. But yeah, piggybacking on what you said, all of your guys' support means a ton. And it's the stuff that kind of keeps us going, and you know the kind of comments that Madman Perry kind of throws out there is super helpful. So we do see all of it, and we're super excited for next year. More reviews, more streams, hopefully too. I think we'd both like to do more things with our community. So you know, hopefully we find some of those ways to kind of connect with you guys on Discord and maybe play some games together and try to find other things that we can do on streams. Would be really, really fun. But heck of a year for gaming and a heck of a year for the channel. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Excited to watch this back myself, honestly, and it'll be here for anyone that didn't catch it live. Stick around for the channel. Share it with all your friends, your mom, your friends' moms. We got a bunch of stuff coming up.
The more moms, the better.
The more moms, the better. And we hope to see you there.
My mom loves this channel.
Yeah, she does. My mom loves it too. Jake's mom
all
loves
right.
it. Alrighty. Have a good night, everybody. Peace out.
Bye, guys.